Oftentimes we hear entrepreneurs just talk about what stack should they use. It doesn't matter. Your users do not know what stack you're using. It just needs to work and solve the problem. Of course, it shouldn't be like buggy, and it shouldn't have like obvious visual problems, but like it just needs to work. So don't overthink that is the number one rule I have. My friend Steven Cravata scaled his mobile app to 40K MRR with just 15 screens on his app. But there's a bunch of apps being launched by people who don't know how to code. Like each one of these guys literally look 20 years old or less, and they definitely don't have computer science degrees, but they're building apps that are producing insane amounts of revenue. $2 million a month for Cal.ai, $150K a month for Umax. Quitter is crushing it right now, $140K a month, but I know that they were actually closer to $1 million a month a while ago. But each one of these apps solves a unique problem in somebody's life, and they're printing millions and millions of dollars using the same strategy that a lot of these e-commerce entrepreneurs are using, where they build a product and then they use TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and some of these organic channels that are a lot more prone to go viral to actually market the app. So it's the same strategy that like TikTok shop creators are using and e-com creators are using, but they're using it for apps. I'm not going to specifically get into all the marketing like on this call. I think marketing is a whole different beast, but I will show you kind of like the fundamentals of like how do you set up your app to be able to market it and actually consistently produce revenue. Steve, I'm not sure if you agree here, but like 99% of mobile app founders that I talk to are overcomplicating their ideas. And the cold truth is, if you're watching this, maybe not, but you probably are overcomplicating it, and you can definitely always shrink down your scope of work. I think we have a rule at Ambitious Labs where if any of our builders are stuck, we always revert to, can we de-scope? Can we remove any of these features? Will it break the app? Because our main goal is to launch, because once you launch, it's like a snowball. It's way easier to push a snowball that's like already rolling than it is to just like keep trying to grab snow and kind of tack it onto this snowball. So simple scales, complex fails here. All right, let's jump into the meat of it. So single player utility apps right now are the fastest way to make money with mobile apps. And I know this word sounds kind of daunting, but these are all the types of apps that I've seen Steve cover on his channel. Like, Steve, I'm seeing you talk about to all these successful founders, and most of them are single player utility apps. A single player utility app doesn't have to be a game. I know it can be kind of, you can kind of infer that it might be a game from using the word single player, but all a single player utility app is, everybody, is an app with no social features that's designed for one user and has a very clear path to solving the problem for a user. And you're aiming for an average session duration time of like 2 minutes. You want people going into your app and solving a problem and getting right back out. Mobile app founders need to understand that we are competing for screen time. We're competing for attention span. And with people spending between 5 to 6 hours a day on their phone, like we're competing against Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, X, Messages app, WhatsApp, you name it. So if you want to get a slice of that person's screen time, we need to aim for like the lowest amount of time investment, but the highest amount of value out. So these types of apps are perfect for like subscriptions and like one-time purchases. So like I see a lot of entrepreneurs come into our program and we start chalking up their business model. And actually, we actually are starting to reject all of these apps now. We've realized that we only want to stick to mobile apps that are subscription-based or in-app purchase-based. No more like, I want to monetize with ads. I want to monetize with commissions, or I'm going to do white label, or I'm going to do a service fee. And like, we're going to do a 2-sided or 3-sided marketplace, and we're going to take an escrow in between. Like, no, we're not doing any of that. Yeah. Focus just on subscriptions and one-time purchases, because those are the apps that are absolutely printing money. We've studied the top 1,000 apps, and 60% of them are less than 20 screens, and they're all subscription and in-app purchase based. And pretty much all the successful apps that you've covered on your channel are the same. Any comments there, Steve?
No, I love it, man. I love it. I don't want to take away from this is your philosophy, and I love it too. I agree.
So a clear utility here, right? Like we want to solve a small problem in a big market. And you are like the king of talking about this, Steve. Like you're always like the niche. Like everybody that comes to your channel, they know that you talk about the niche. And I have this term now that I found in the book, $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi. It's like, don't make me niche slap you. And
yeah, I like that one.
Sometimes it's pretty fun to think about, like how much more niche can we go? And like one example of this is like, We get people who want to build fitness apps. Fantastic. Fitness apps are fantastic businesses, but there's so many fitness apps. So how do you differentiate, right? We can talk about weight loss. We can talk about South Indian vegan bodybuilding. We can talk about like the Chinese diet. We can talk about vegan diets. Like there's so many like little angles. And then you actually told me this on our last call, which was like, you can have the same app, but if you market it at a different angle, you can produce completely different results. Like for example, a meditation app, but you market it as anxiety relief, right? We have somebody in our program actually who built a meditation app, and she was like, how do I scale this? How do I get users? And it was right after I got off the call with you. And she had told me that the reason she came up with this idea was because it was either her or somebody in her life was having seizures. And I was like, that is the most painful marketing angle you can think of. Like, use the same product, but market it as like seizure relief or like seizure prevention. And that is such a scary thing to somebody that it's going to touch them in the right place to where they will download your app. And if the solution is the same and it helps them achieve the benefit of, preventing seizures, like that is a completely different market that you can tap into. That's so big. You can build a multi-million-dollar business out of that. You don't have to just think about, okay, is this a meditation app? I think we need to think about like the actual problem that it's solving for the end user. And that's like one way that you can niche.
Yeah, that's a perfect example, Aleem, because it's like you want to make people feel better, right? And it's like, okay, that's what meditation is. But then if you say, I'm going to help you relieve anxiety, then that's a painkiller. Like I know exactly what my problem is solving. And I know you're like, hey, I want to help entrepreneurs make profitable apps. I want to help entrepreneurs the same way, right? And so I'm like, I want to take their for you, they have to have an app idea. For me, like they already have an app. So I want to help them try to live their dreams. And so those are the things that pump me up. And it's like how you do it. People focus more on the how you do it. No, instead of like what the problem you're actually solving.